of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, is indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Welcome to the Patriot Hour. Please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the like button, thumbs up.
#1 most trusted intel source. Calling all Patriots.
And that means you can't rely on the media as it is today either.
Oh, of course not. All the media in this country, radio, television, and print, is all owned by 5 corporations. All of these corporations that own the media are owned and controlled, and members of the Council on Foreign Relations sit on the board of directors.
Can you name those 5?
One basic truth can be used as a foundation for a mountain of lies. And if we dig down deep enough in the mountain of lies and bring out that truth to set it on top of the mountain of lies, the entire mountain of lies will crumble under the weight of that one truth. And there's nothing more devastating to a structure of lies than the revelation of the truth upon which the structure of lies was built. Because the shockwaves of the revelation of the truth reverberate and continue to reverberate throughout the earth for generations to follow, awakening even those people who had no desire to be awakened to the truth.
So it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive.
All right, welcome to the Patriot Hour. It's Sunday evening. I am your host, Michael. If you're new to the channel, thanks for being here. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're a returning Patriot, welcome back. All right, we got Donald Jeffries here again. We're going to see if we can get this initial interview. He's an author. He has been researching for a long time, folks. And JFK is one of his specialties. So I remember, we had him on about a week ago, and we started getting into just an introduction of him in the several books. So we're gonna continue that. I had a few. You guys probably didn't see any videos out from me yesterday. Again, I had an issue. The AC is down, so it was really hot here in the Midwest. I think we got temperatures up a little above 90. Humidity was heavy, so unfortunately, this studio it's not in the basement like a lot of you might think. It's up on my second floor, so it gets really hot. It was like 88 in here. If I would have turned on all this equipment, I would have been cooked out. So unfortunately, no videos, but it's up and running a little bit today. It's on the get by. I literally have to make moves this week to get that done. So again, we appreciate all your understanding. And we're going to get into this here pretty quick. I want to touch base on the Patriot Fest. Lots of emails, concerns. People will give me a ticket. There are no tickets. This is a free event. The flag retirement happens every year. The motorcycle ride happens every year. But what we're adding to it this year is called the Patriot Fest, and that's the night before. You guys are welcome to camp out for the 2 days. You're welcome to participate in the Saturday events of the Legion, which are the flag retirement and the ride. We'll get you more information on that. I know tons of you have emailed me, and I think I've at one point, and I hope somebody can confirm this, I did send a mass email out probably back in December to those of you, maybe it was November, to those of you that had already emailed me once. I didn't really get any responses off that, so I don't know if it hit your guys' account as spam. It might have, because I got some software to let me email you all at once, and it might have came in looking like spam. So I don't know. If anyone can confirm that you got a reply from me on that event the first time, because we're getting ready to do it again to everyone else. I mean, we got lots of people interested. So again, we got JT Wild going to be performing Friday night. We're going to be doing a live show with all of you there. It won't be much of a show with news and reports, because we'll be at the event. So it's going to be more of a show to just talk to some of you, maybe while you're sitting there, ask you where you come from, how far you drove, and just have a good time. And then we're kicking off into a concert with JT Wild, which would be broadcast live for anyone that couldn't make it. So regardless, it's going to be a good time. Other than that, okay, we're going to jump over here. Let me see here. All right, Donald, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we got you good. We can hear you good. How about anyone in the audience? I see Woodman's in. We got some of our moderators, you guys. Thanks for being here. If you guys can hear us, great. Let me know. 5 of 5. Yes, JFK, expert here, author of many books, researcher, JFK. I think you said your first book kind of came out in the 70s. He's been on several talk shows, SGT Report, Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. How are you doing tonight, Donald?
Okay, fine. Glad we're finally going to make it work here, hopefully.
Yes. So, all right, everyone's saying you sound great. They can hear us. I want to just quickly, I'm going to pull it up on the screen here. But again, why don't you introduce yourself like you'd never been here. Tell us a little bit of your history on what got you interested to be an author and researcher, and just take us a little bit down that history.
Okay, well, I started out, I was a pretty much very liberal Democrat. I grew up in a Democratic family, so I thought they were the good guys for far too long, and didn't realize two-party duopoly is so deadly to us in terms of having an independent political movement. But JFK was my hero, so I started studying his assassination when I was a teenager, and I worked as a volunteer in the mid-'70s as a teenager for Mark Lane, who was the most high-profile critic of the Warren Report. He wrote Rush to Judgment, a New York Times bestseller, and it was a very kind of heady experience. I got to meet him and everything. I wrote about that in my book, Hidden History. And I was obsessed with the JFK assassination for a long time. It's still my bread and butter issue, probably what I know more than anything else. And from there, it took a while, but I became disillusioned with the Democrats and the standard liberal politics, so I kind of started going into I read None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen at the Council of Foreign Relations, and that kind of led me into a whole new area. And so I started becoming really independent and criticizing both the left and the right. And by the time my first nonfiction book was published, Hidden History, in 2014, that the paperback has a foreword by Roger Stone. I covered the JFK assassination and basically everything from the JFK assassination up through, at that time, the Obama administration. And hard to believe in the pre-Trump era, but Trump's name isn't even mentioned in the book, I don't believe. But it's just a few short years how things have changed. And I talked about the RFK assassination. I talked a lot about 9/11, Waco, Oklahoma City. I was the first one to write extensively about what I believe was the assassination of JFK Jr. And I did a really in-depth investigation of that. So a lot of people said that the book is worth it just for that. So lots and lots of things in there. Equal opportunity offender. I looked at all the administrations, all the scandals, a lot of them forgotten. And from there, I published Survival of the Richest after that, which was a critique of our wealth distribution, but not from a standard leftist point of view, because I talked about the impact of immigration, and I tried to restore the reputation of Huey Long in the book. He's been despised by the left for a long time, and he's my political hero. That one has the paperback just came out of that, on that just a couple months ago, and Naomi, one of the great honest liberals out there, wrote the foreword to it. And then I had Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics, 1776 to 1963, the history they didn't teach you in school, which has a foreword by the great Ron Paul. I was very honored, one of my heroes. And that is kind of a prequel to hidden history, and that covers everything from the founding of the Republic and how the founding fathers have been smeared and are still being smeared, all the way up until about the point of the JFK assassination. And then my latest book is Bullyocracy, How the Social Hierarchy Enables Bullies to Rule Schools, Workplaces, and Society at Large. So I write about social issues as well, but the two conspiracy books are the ones that sell the best, and they're the ones that people want to talk about more than the others.
Okay. No, that's... I pulled up every one of your books here, folks. These are available, as you're seeing here. I'm on Amazon. I don't know if that's the best way, but so what did you think about? Did you get a chance to look at some of the D class of the JFK? And like you said, nothing was going to be the unless you were engulfed in some of this stuff, nothing's like going to raise the hair on your neck. You're not going to find this hidden gem that just, oh, there it is. But if you know a lot of things, like you said, I think the mayor down there was a CIA asset or something of the sorts. I mean, but did you look at some of that D class and what's left? I think there's a few papers not D class yet, and I'm not sure when, but Trump said he was going to get the rest of those out. I'm not sure.
Well, there are still interesting files we'd like to see. For instance, Lee Harvey Oswald's tax returns are still declassified. Why would that be? And that's because there's a lot of dispute about his background. A lot of people think he was part of an intelligence project, and there were actually two Oswalds, a Lee and a Harvey. The whole theory was that. But at any rate, his tax returns are still classified. Louis Payne, who was a CIA connected and later had a connection to the Sandinistas, it was a very political activist for a long time, very curious. A lot of people think she might have been Oswald's handler. She's still alive, by the way. And her tax returns for some ones are still classified. So we'd like to see those. As you mentioned, the main thing I got out of it, I don't expect there to be a smoking gun, because I doubt very seriously if the conspirators had a memo delineating how they were going to assassinate JFK and how we're going to do it. So I'm not sure what people think they're going to see there. We know enough. We've known enough for a very long time that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't do it. That the most powerful institutions, including the state-controlled media, I call it the state-controlled media because it is, have covered this up from the very beginning. And so we've mentioned the CIA connection to the mayor of Dallas, which is very curious. That's Earl Cabell, who was the brother of Charles Cabell, who was a CIA high-ranking official who was fired along with Alan Dulles, who, of course, later went on to be one of the instrumental people in the Warren Commission after the Bay of Pigs. So that was an interesting kind of verification of what a lot of us thought. But beyond that, there wasn't really anything that interesting, especially to the public at large. For people like me, that could have some interest, but the average person is not going to be interested in probably anything else that's going to be released.
Gotcha. So in hidden history, would you say that throughout time, I like to always tell people that sometimes, I say history broken apart is his story. It's always and that's always written by the winners. And sometimes it's the agreed upon lie, by a group of people at the time. And then if you have somebody like maybe you and me that oppose what's going on at that particular time, you're considered a dissenter, or of sorts of that government narrative or what they perceive to push on. But I find it funny that we're living through this time now with like the virus or some of this other stuff, fake news, and it's hard to, even with me living and my neighbor, and we'll argue over what's possibly true. It's hard to get to the bottom of stuff even when you're living through that time frame.
Yeah, we don't have any. Even, I mean, I rely heavily on the internet, and I've been taught several times, like, I don't vet a story closely enough before I post it on social media. And I get fooled sometimes by sources that I thought I trusted, because I certainly don't trust the mainstream media.
Yeah.
And, we know how, probably Donald Trump's greatest contribution to our society is to turn fake news, because everyone understands that now. And, of course, both sides do. Of course, as you mentioned with your neighbor, you can have somebody who has Trump derangement syndrome or whatever, that hates Trump, and they'll call things fake news. And, of course, people that support it will say other things are fake news. But I would argue that most everything you get out there is, certainly everything is slanted now. It's, if you watch certainly CNN or something like that, it's there's not even a pretense anymore at attempting to just report the news. I mean, everything is a screed, and it's like a political speech, and a lot more passionate than real political speeches are. And if you go back even to the media we had in the past was bad. I mean, so somebody said in the JFK assassination, I understand how much Walter Cronkite and Don William Brinkley and Peter Jennings and Dan Rather all lied about the JFK assassination, but they were able to present it. They acted as if they were being unbiased. Somebody like me especially understood how biased they were, but they did a better job of camouflaging it. Nowadays, the Don Lemons and the Chris Cuomos of the world, there's no attempt to camouflage anything. So anybody watching those, you're just trying to get, I may watch Tucker Carlson. I think he's the best one in the mainstream media. But I'm doing that kind of as, verifying my biases. But I don't know how anybody watches some of the other media, but I get everything, try to get everything from independent sources on the internet. Most of the time, they're more credible than what you're going to get on any television station.
I agree. I'm looking at your WordPress here, donaldjeffries.wordpress.com, folks, and you're seeing it on the screen. This is very interesting. So they are killing black men, we could all agree, but more accurately, you're saying they're killing just people, even more non-blacks. And the important point should be that these public servants have killed nearly 3,000 Americans in less than 3 years. But I hear Norway, you're saying not a single person's been killed by the police in a decade there?
Yeah.
That is wow.
That tells you something, doesn't it? I've been very critical of the police, but in this, I'm critical of the system, and that's why I hate what's going on now, because it's being turned into this predictable racism stuff and dividing tactics. But we need to look at the policing for profit system, the asset forfeiture system, which is what law enforcement is now. And it leads to these kind of incidents with the public, because most cops today are traffic cops. They're out there getting revenue because they've learned it's much more profitable for them, and it's less dangerous. So most of them don't really encounter that many threatening situations. Certainly the ones living, patrolling and the beats in some bad neighborhoods do, and they go through hell. But so when you have an experience like a lot of these cops in these types of protests, where they're threatening individuals, they don't know what to do. And so they sit back and let the looting go on. And I said, if we can't have our police forces stop looting and destruction of property, and firefighters not even coming to put out fires, what are we paying them for? And I don't understand what the purpose of it is. So I think there's a lot of criticism there to be had, but unfortunately, when you're hearing racism and white supremacy and stuff over and over again, it picks off people like me. I'm tired of hearing it, and I think that's a fake debate, and I think it's the media-driven narrative to try to just divide us further.
I can definitely agree. I like, my research has led me to believe, like with Abraham Lincoln, just in a GIFs, and people can debate. And again, I know we weren't there. We have several different sources, and then we have what they present as history. Then you have books that are considered conspiracy and maybe other alternatives. But basically, Abe Lincoln ran on his election was to free the slaves, and then he won. And you still had a bunch of states that were butthurt. They didn't want to go away from that, whatever. And you had other things going on, but they created a big uproar. And basically, Abe Lincoln had to suspend habeas corpus, put the Constitution down in certain areas and do the Insurrection Act, which was like in D.C. and I think in Virginia. I think they succeeded from the Union at the time. But basically, some of these people in the states were working with the enemy, considered, because they were working with, the foreigners that about 100 years previous to that we had fought to get away from. So he did that. And I can imagine possibly Abe Lincoln, when he went to sign that, he's like, well, I don't like to suspend the Constitution, but I'll do it for this short amount of time. And when he did it, then he got killed. And I know there were some other things to do with the Fed Reserve and the greenbacks, but they killed him, and then they basically wrote up their own Constitution. And when they brought it, I believe it was a period of 10 years. When they finally let go of habeas corpus and kind of unsuspended, our Constitution went on the dustbin, and theirs came out. And that's when all these laws and acts, or whatever you call them, came out of D.C. So it's like he freed the slaves, which was a black man back then, but in turn, they ended up turning us all into slaves on paper. So we had much resistance to that idea back then, and it's, to me, seems possibly what Trump could be doing was freeing us all from being slaves of that system. That's what we all hope, I guess, he was kind of doing. I've been seeing a little bit of that action, his talk against the Fed, but I don't know. And you see all the resistance to that since he won. So it's very similar.
Well, I think my book, Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics, 1776-1963, I take a very controversial look at Lincoln. And I don't have a favorable view of him. And I compare him to the Founding Fathers, who do have a favorable view of him. Most people don't realize Lincoln actually did not like the Founding Fathers. In fact, he hated Thomas Jefferson, who was my favorite. And in that book, I write quite a bit about how unfairly he was kind of racist. In fact, he was the most enlightened man of his day, probably the most brilliant statesman we ever had. And unfortunately, because, as you noted, history is written by the victors. The people that write history now, the court historians, and certainly the people that are have widespread forums on television and so forth, they have the ability to dismiss someone like Jefferson as a racist. The only founding father that gets good press is Alexander Hamilton, and there's a good reason for that. That's because he was the banker's favorite founding father. He was pushing for a Federal Reserve-type central bank early on, and in the early years of the Republic, that was the main political debate between the Jeffersonians, who did not want a central bank and distrusted bankers, and the Hamiltonians, who wanted to have a centralized power there. And Hamilton also invented debt. He was the one that, after the Revolutionary War, had the federal government pick up all the states' debts, again, to the dismay of people like Jefferson and people on the early Democrat Republicans. So I don't think it's any accident that Hamilton is a black, young, hip Broadway star now. And he gets great press because of the fact he's the banker's favorite founding father, and the rest are dismissed as racist. But Jefferson would, and all the other founding fathers, would have been appalled at Lincoln and his suspending the writ of habeas corpus, and he shut down over 200 newspapers. We still don't know how many thousands of them he threw into prisons. And then you're correct, he was assassinated later. I read a lot about his assassination, which, again, is lies. It wasn't just these little band of Southern sympathizers who all came from the North, basically, supposedly. But Lincoln did try, as you noted, he did print greenbacks.
Yes. Right
before it, and I think that was probably what killed him. But as you noted, we lost something very significant after the war, because the Revolutionary War, the War for Independence, was fought on the primary principle behind it was the consent of the governed. The colonies no longer consented to British rule. They wanted to be independent, so they in effect seceded from Great Britain rule. Jefferson himself quotes forever on the record that people everywhere have a right to alter or abolish any form of government when they desire. Clearly, they would have all supported the Southern states seceding later in 1860. And the idea that this was something traitorous or whatever, again, when the rebellion, the secession was quelled, the Confederate States were defeated, and they were forced to remain in the Union against their will, that forever shattered the main principle of the Revolution, which was that people have the right to consent to those who govern them. Because the Southern states, whether right or wrong, they no longer consented. So we lost something tremendous there. And I think the reason why even today you don't see school children, Hollywood has paid zero attention to the War for Independence and the Founding Fathers, unless they want to put something out and portray them as racist. But they don't talk about the real history and the tyranny, and idolizing them for the Boston Tea Party and things like that. That I used to get excited about reading that as a child. I found that exciting, intoxicating. That's still my favorite period in history. I love reading about our founding and that we took off the shackles of tyranny and all these great speeches. But how can we teach that now? Because it contradicts everything we're living under. We've been living under a greater tyranny for decades than the colonists ever did under George III's rule. So when you have somebody like Patrick Henry, one of the greatest colonists, forgotten, I'm sure, dismissed as a racist, but when he made that great comment about, I may not agree with what you say, but I may disagree with what you say, but I'll defend to my dying day your right to say it. That contradicts our entire culture now, because the left especially not only doesn't want you to have the right to say something they disagree with, they want to get you fired for it.
Yeah.
Sometimes thrown in jail. So we're really living in we can't talk about the Founding Fathers much because everything they did contradicts what we see now about the government and our leadership.
Good point. I mean, locally here where I'm at, it's like you said back in the day, if you didn't like a TV show, right, if you're flipping through the channel, you just turned the channel and you found something you liked. You didn't take the time and go out of your way to probably write a letter and attack the production company and then tell them that they need to get this show off the air because it's so bad that nobody should ever have to witness and watch it. You just turn the channel. But today it seems like people, if they don't like your view or like what you're saying, they want you shut down. They don't want anyone to hear you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I'm a civil libertarian, so I'm a dinosaur. And Mark Lane, what I said, was my mentor and hero, and he was the kind of civil libertarian the left used to have. And if you go back and look at some of the organizations that were ironically smeared as being red or communist back in the day, they had names like the First Amendment Committee, free speech. There was that thread throughout, even the ACLU back then. I mean, most people don't realize the American Civil Liberties Union back in the 70s. And it was led by a Jewish lawyer, and I believe his parents had been Holocaust survivors or something. But he defended the right of genuine Nazis, people who were really Nazis and carrying swastika flags and so forth, to march through Skokie, Illinois, which was a heavily Jewish area. And that's how we've changed. Now imagine that today. Not only would no Jewish lawyer and the ACLU would be opposed to it, but people would be appalled by it. We can't allow that. And that's, I think, what's very troubling about today is that our definition of freedom has shrunk so much. Back then, we realized that, hey, even though this is something that offended this guy personally, he was going to defend him. He was going to defend their right to do it because they have the right to peaceably assemble. And of course, we're seeing that now with the right to peaceably assemble. And that's what differs with a lot of these protests have been so far, because once you start looting and carrying big screen TVs on and breaking windows and setting fires, that you don't have that right in the Constitution.
Now, exactly. What do you think on the number? Like, so with racism or slave owners, I mean, I think the number I saw at the peak of slavery was just around, I don't know if it was in 1860 or 1870 or 1883 or something, but and I thought the peak of it, I thought it was like 2.8 or 3% of white people owned slaves. So again, it almost goes to that 1%. The one percenters, the people, the movers and shakers. Shoot, man, until I saw that, I thought that it was almost like all white people.
Yeah, and we're still. I write about this a lot. Is that we're still wrapped up in this past where there's no white alive today that had a grandparent that on a slave. And the odds are that there's like probably a 97% chance that or actually higher, because we're just factoring in whites whose ancestors are already in the country during the slave days. How many people came? Look at all the immigration in the early 1900s through Ellis Island. None of those people had any history of slavery. And our largest minority group now are not blacks, they're Hispanics. None of them were here then until really the 1970s. All the Asian groups, none of them were here. Middle Eastern, all the immigrants that have come have no connection to slavery whatsoever. So I've talked about this absurd idea of reparations. It's impossible. How would you even? There's no workable way to do it. But
where does it start, or where does it end?
Identity politics. You talk with emotion, and it sounds, oh yeah, we need to do that. What are you talking about? It's logistically ridiculous. But if people are still so bent out of shape about slavery, and I certainly, no sane person supports slavery, but slavery was a norm all throughout the world. At the time, America was and the slavery we had in this country was no worse or no better than it was what was going on all around the world, going back to ancient Rome. And it was ending all around the world about the time it ended in America. People were finally getting enlightened enough to realize, okay, this is wrong. But what is happening now is in this world today, there are 40 million slaves, including 10 million in India. I don't hear anyone on the left talking about that. Instead, they're still talking about what happened in 1860. Instead of talking about, why aren't you concerned? If it's slavery you object to, surely you must be outraged. And we're talking about, I think there was maybe, I forget how many thousands of slaves there were at the peak in America, but it was nowhere near what we have today in India alone. So where's the boycott demands of India? Instead, India is being allowed to overtake our IT industry with the visa worker program. So that's the kind of stuff I concentrate on. This hypocrisy and the failure to look at things from a rational view. And we don't have any leaders on the left or right that are doing that. Instead, the debate breaks down into who can shout racist higher, louder.
Yeah. Well, what about the fact that, like you said, the Democrats like to, I can point it out. I can point the hypocrisies on both sides, but we'll talk about this one. They're the ones demanding that statues and things be ripped down and trying to change or hide the history, I guess, maybe, or we're not going to glorify it. So much so that even with their own past, that they have, like, erased it. They've erased their own past to act like, well, the party's switched. And that always boggled my mind when I heard that. Like, well, the party's a switch. And I was like, well, when and how? How do you switch your history? And then they talk about a point. And the best thing I can find is when they act like they allowed for the black man to vote and equal, or women to vote or something. But if you look into that time, the Republicans wrote up the bill, the Republicans put it on the table, and the only thing that the Democrats didn't do was like filibuster. They offered to not filibuster and let the bill come through. So since they didn't filibuster and it went through and passed, by the way, it was all Republicans that voted on it to pass. Not a single Democrat voted yes for it. But since they didn't filibuster, they take credit for it getting through and to pass. And they act like that's the big switch. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it is. It's really. I mean, I've written a lot. People have gone to my blog, and it goes back years. And I've written a lot about certainly the tearing down Confederate statues. And it's just. And again, there's nobody other than Trump who usually does it from Twitter, and he doesn't have anybody next to him, defending him as well. Nobody is standing up for history. Even if I believe the conventional view of the Civil War and call it the Civil War instead of the war between the states, even if I believe that, I would still be opposed to tearing down statues because that's history. It doesn't matter, even if it was unpleasant. Now,
Yes.
I believe it's been distorted. And has
You
been
learn,
reported
yeah,
accurately.
exactly. No, I agree.
believe that these were a
But-
group of states that they decided they no longer. It doesn't matter why they didn't want to be in the Union anymore. They had the right to do that. Consent of the government. That's why we fought a revolution, right? But the fact that they're coming, certainly Robert E. Lee, tearing down his statue, if you look at the history of Robert E. Lee, he compares favorably. He's probably the closest thing to a founding father we still had. I mean, in fact, he was descended from Richard Lighthorse Lee was one of George Washington's close friends and aides. Lee was an incredibly noble man. He didn't even really believe in the cause of secession, but he believed in states' rights. So that's why, in fact, he was going to be the first choice to lead Lincoln's army. But he went with the South when Virginia seceded because he said, I have to go with my state. Even though he certainly didn't support slavery. Different sources indicate either that he freed his slaves before the Civil War or he never had any slaves. There are different sources. I'm not sure which exactly. Either way, he comes off better than a genuine war criminal like William Sherman, who was a psychopath. I mean, I have all, in that book, I detail the Northern atrocities. It's unbelievable what that guy did. He was a genuine psychopath. And he had slaves, and he mistreated them. You had somebody like Grant, Ulysses Grant, whose wife didn't free her last slave until, I think, 1870, when pressure because I guess at that point he was in the White House, and he made some stupid comment about it's so hard to get good help these days. So by our standards, the problem writing about the history of that era or anything is that the social justice warriors have taken over, so they're looking at everything through the prism of today's identity politics. So, I said, what's going to be next? Are they going to talk about the unreported contributions of transgenders during the Civil War? It wouldn't surprise me. But at this point, you have to realize that looking back, 99.9% of all white people alive in the 1860s would be considered virulent racists if they were alive. That's just the way the times were, and you can't change that because you want it. So what happens is, I've said that you're at some point, probably close to it, you're going to start hearing cries that history itself is racist. And when you tear down statues like that, that's basically what you're saying, especially with no opposition. And that's what really bothers me, Mike, is that there is no opposition to this. There are no people out there, trying to block them tearing down. If somebody tries to tear down a statue of Martin Luther King or something, you think there wouldn't be people out there trying to stop it? At some point, you have to say this is ridiculous. You can't have this kind of civilization where it's kind of a terrorist philosophy that we don't like something, so we're just going to tear it down. I don't see how you have a civilized society like that.
Yeah, no, you can't. And that's why I agree with you. It's kind of like we're in this. So what do you think you do in a situation like right now where just a couple of weeks ago, you had the police were willing to go up to the single mom that might have been on the beach, even though the beach was closed because the state said so. But you had that person go out there, and then they took the time to pull over, come find you all by yourself, say the beach is closed. And if you refuse, they probably arrested you. The mask wearing, the people that did try to open up their barber shops or saloons, they got arrested. But now with this looting going on, they're like, we're not arresting anybody. And I mean, New York came out. I just did a video earlier today about that. But, what do you think if the states refuse to keep the people safe? What are your thoughts on all that issue?
Well, I've written a lot about it. Lou Rockwell, one of the big libertarian website, and he's written blurs for my books. So he's Ron Paul's former chief of staff. He's published a lot of my articles. I've written, I think, 3 articles that got a lot of attention recently, at least 3, about I call it the plandemic. And certainly this has been unprecedented, and you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the police going up to the woman on the beach. And so at another point, I know they arrested a father in a park for playing ball with his daughter, as if he's not living in the same house with his daughter. It made no sense, but I think that's kind of another indication of the policing for profit, because the police, obviously revenue was way down because traffic was way down. So they probably started getting pushed, hey, you need to go out there and get some social distancing violations. They had a black church that had a service in their cars. And they came up to them, and the police busted it up and wanted to fine everybody there $500 each. Insane. So that's the kind of thing you see. And yet these same folks, when you have a real need for them, when you have, because no matter what you think of people that weren't, I don't want to wear a mask. I think it's a sign of servitude. It's ridiculous. But people not wearing masks, not social distancing, all that nonsense that wasn't even mean. However you look at them, even if you think they were wrong and they're unsafe, they're not causing violence. They're not looting and they're not stealing right in front of you. They're not torching a building. They're not destroying property. these protests, nobody believes in my radio show that I have weekly is called I Protest. So I believe in protest strongly, but when you start getting violent like that, then you have to have authority. If police serve a purpose, they have to restore some kind of order. The record shows that they haven't done a very good job of doing that, and as you noted, they were very good about going to a beach and nabbing a woman, and I think that, again, that's what I talked about. They're not used to threatening situations, so they're very bold. And when they walk up to some mother on a beach, but you don't see them, abusing their authority on a blood or a crip or a Hell's Angel. They're nowhere seen then. And I think that's the problem. You need to look at, okay, first of all, what are you doing? And their superiors probably tell them, hey, there's no revenue going up and roughing up a gang member or something. But there is revenue in handing out as many tickets as you can. So I think it's all part of, again, a misguided system. But I understand that I'm one out of a billion, that nobody, hopefully enough people, I get, messages from people that, hey, it's great, that's what I've been thinking too. So I know people out in the public think that, but nobody with a public platform does. They're going to break down these protests have shown again the disastrous nature of what Alex Jones used to call the phony left-right paradigm. Because on the left, you have the social justice warriors saying violence is okay now. They're actually saying violence is okay. They're not criticizing the protesters for not social distancing when they went crazy when the anti-lockdown protests occurred. Oh, my God, it's not safe. We're all going to get COVID again. They went nuts on it. Look at all those white people. Now it's cool. You can't say anything about it because that's the left. And everything's racist. The entire protests are basically about everything's racist. So, Black Lives Matter. And on the right, they're coalescing because they're tired of hearing racism. They're coalescing behind the police. And we need to give them more power, protect our police. So I think they're both wrong, but nobody apparently does. These people think like I do.
Yeah. I got your book pulled up, Bullyocracy. What do you, and I know exactly what's going on here. I didn't go to college till later in my life after the service. So I even saw some of the professors or whatever I dealt with there almost try to bully me. Definitely saw them bully others. But in a GIF, so can you tell us a little bit about that and what made you write that one?
Well, it's a subject I'd always been interested in. I think probably I was spurred by the fact that I have a niece that was born with Down syndrome back in 1968. So in those days they called them mongoloids and take down, and of course retards. That I still can't stand to hear the R word. I saw how people treated her, adults, and the awful way she was treated, shunned, and called names. And so it had a huge impression on me because I wasn't very old then. I was like 11 or something. So I began to really look at it differently, and I think I was always moved. And everything I write, is basically I'm always for the little guy. I'm a populist, and I think that there's nobody more in need of a defense than a victim of bullying. And I have, countless cases in the book, and I've heard more. It hasn't sold as well as I'd hoped so far. It is new, but I've gotten more feedback about that book than any because this is a subject that affects pretty much every family in America. I've had someone, either they've been bullied or know someone, but I've heard from middle-aged and older people who are still reliving the nightmares 50 years later, and they haven't been able to shake it. A lot of times they can't lead real lives because we look at like sexual abuse of a child, and we don't tell them, oh, this is part of being a kid. It's just, shake it off, grow up, and you can't hang on to it. We don't tell them that. We realize that it traumatizes and scars them. But I contend that vicious bullying and the counseling, I talked to several parents whose kids killed themselves, tragically, because of it. And we don't tell victims of, we should look at the victims of bullying the same way because they're scarred in the same manner. It doesn't go away, and especially when it isn't recognized. And my thesis is that it's a social hierarchy. It's the concept of popularity versus unpopularity, and the way we prop up sports, especially, has such an undue influence on our school systems that this is why it happens, because most of the bullies we found out now are actually popular kids. they're the jocks. And on the female side, they're the cheerleaders and the prom queens that are the mean girls. This is the ones who really make they're not the troubled kid, his father's abusing him or something. That's largely a myth. But I think that they prop up this hierarchy and no one wants to talk about it because so many people that run our country now, Fortune 500 companies, big politicians, celebrities, were all part of that social hierarchy. They were very popular. A lot of them were big athletes, prom queens, homecoming kings, things like that, when they were in school. So the system, they're still propping up the same system. And so I look into workplace bullying as well, and how because it basically goes from school bullying to fraternities and sororities. I mean, I think something like 85% of Fortune 500 CEOs were in big fraternities in college. And so it's a clique. I mean, they don't have to all be skull and bones. That's obviously the most, the highest seed out of Yale. I mean, that a lot of real elitists that went to that. But there's that same kind of camaraderie, and it spills over later into political things like, the Bilderbergers and the Council of Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, Bohemian Grove. All these things were they're cliques for the people that are, and I think they begin to they learn that in the fraternities, and then when they go in the workforces again, you have maybe it turns into practical jokes or stuff. But there are lots of people that get bullied on the job as well. And basically, if you look at whistleblowers, the most high-profile whistleblowers in recent years, Julian Assange, Manning, Snowden, look how they were treated. I mean, they were in the establishment, and I know whistleblowers. I talked to them on the radio show. I've met them, and very few of them are welcome by anybody. A lot of times it's against them. I think it's the same kind of thing. If you're a little kid, and you're basically blowing the whistle on somebody. If you say, hey, somebody did this to me, one of my classmates, and a lot of teachers will actually respond and say, I don't want to hear tattletale. And that's when people learn, well, okay, I guess I can't report wrongdoing and that's the kernel of my book, and that's why probably it's never going to be popular in the academic world because I'm very rough on teachers. I think the schools are the problem. That's what I documented in this book, how over and over again, bullying is reported, documented.
You hit it on that.
Doing it are reported.
Yeah, you're labeled a snitch, right? A snitch or something. That's what gets you in trouble. Nobody likes, hey, don't be a snitch or. Yeah, tattletale, snitch, rat. Mm-hmm. I talk about all the names now. We still hear that, and that's in the business world. Police, ironically, bully each other a lot. They bully firefighters do. The medical world, full of bullies. In the military, it was heavy in the military. Yeah.
So it's something, and I think it's because bullies have a psychopathic characteristic of confidence. Extreme confidence, lack of empathy, and that's what we see in our leaders. I cite a study in the book from the UK of the occupations that have the highest percentage of psychopathic personalities, and they're all the most successful ones. CEOs, entertainers, athletes, doctors, lawyers, clergy, and so journalists. I think it's known because these are people that are ruling us, and they have the same kind of characteristics.
That's interesting. You just hit something on the head there for me, so I have to write that down. But what do you think? I guess I kind of lost it there. I had something good there, but you hit the nail on the head. Psychopaths. These are the bullies. They've kind of bullied their way into the world. We're gonna have a follow-up show, of course, on that. This was, again, folks, I think it went a lot better. I got all of his links up here. Let me go over these real quick. So we got your Keeping It Real, the blog. That's it looks like you update it here. This is June 2nd. So he does this, I'm gonna imagine once a week at some point you get in there. Got several articles as I scroll down, but you guys get over here and check this out. We got the Twitter here. I've seen the mods have been linking some of your books. I got the Twitter feed up here. It says twitter.com. It's Don Jeffers at Twitter. He's got his WordPress. He's got the books, author of several books that I'm interested in: Hidden History, Bullocracy, Survival of the Richest, Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics. And then we actually had that other one we were talking about, Keeping It Real, right? The Unreal, yeah. Well, I hope we can schedule something. I don't know what your schedule is this week coming up.
Absolutely. Because I'm basically a full-time writer now, so I'm very flexible. So just let me know when you're thinking of it, and we should be able to work something out.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk to you anytime.
All right. Well, I'm going to email you shortly, probably later this evening or first thing in the morning, but let's plan on midweek, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, depending on your schedule, what works best. We can do Wednesday or Thursday, I believe, evening time. So you guys out there, look for that part 2 of us, and we're probably, I'm going to look into a few more things, but we'll probably have a little bit more set topic that I want to discuss with Donald Jeffries. So you guys tune in for that one. Donald, thank you for being here this evening. I think we just went about an hour. I got a few things to put out, but we'll talk to you. We'll see you Wednesday or Thursday, and we'll keep in touch by email or call me or whatever. So
sounds great. Thanks. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you. All right, you guys, there you go. That was Donald Jeffries. Give me a minute here. Which was awesome. I learned so much. So it's time to reach out. I'm going to be, trying to at least once a month have somebody on of that interest, me, us, something, people that have dug into history. My dream, and I think you guys know, will be to write a book soon. I got a couple different ideas, but it'll be a way for you guys to get a little bit more out of me as well. I talked about doing my early history, maybe all within a chapter, my early life into the Navy, and then that would just be, nothing too detailed, but and then getting into how I, wound up here. I know some of you know that, but that's my idea. And then I have a book on, even for everybody, how to, YouTube, how I gained 100,000. I gained 120,000 in a year. That might not work for everybody, but the basics of it, what I stuck to, what I did, that's just my own ideas. So I'm always interested. And I hope you guys would be interested in those books as well if I did them. Patriot Fest, again, if the mods can put that up, we need to getting close here. The only way this works is if you guys are coming, and I hope you are. It's going to be a great time. Again, no agendas. It's just us, some music. If you drink, you can have some drinks. We're trying to plan some real special stuff for sure. So bear with us. Trying to get lots done. I'm only one man. Can only do so much. No, we got all the brothers helping. Look for a show. Me and Woodman, Ben here soon. We're going to be doing one from the Legion. I want to get back down there. We want to test our feed, all the work that we did. Now we got to test that out and then move forward from there. So lots going on, lots happening. If you've emailed and you haven't gotten a response back, don't worry about that. The Patriot Fest is going on as long as the country allows it. If we're literally on some kind of lockdown and things are all crazy, I understand, but as far as now, we're still planning on that event. So again, thanks for, make sure you get over to Donald Jeffries if you're on the Twitters, give him a, maybe chat on his last thing, tell him the Patriot Hour sent you, and check out his books, check out Wednesday's show. Look for tomorrow, we're going to do a live show. I see Woodman's in the room. I think I saw him tweeting. So we'll see who's available for the Oath. Right around 9:30 a.m. Could be the Oath of 4, could be the Oath of 3, 2, or 1. Regardless, I'll be going tomorrow morning. I feel bad for not getting a video out for you guys yesterday, so I'll make it up. Again, Wednesday morning, Patriot call-in, Patriot's Choice. So a good stacked up week here. You got Donald Jeffries coming back on maybe Wednesday night or Thursday. Look for shows tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning is going to be call-in. Tomorrow and Tuesday will be our typical news flow. look for videos over the next couple days, just coming out heavily. The projector should be back. It's just downstairs. Kids camped out last weekend. I let them use it for late in the evening while they're having a bonfire. They like to project a little movie or some videos they want to watch. So I just have not had the projector. And then lots going on. I know we all got lots going on. All right. Again, I'm Michael. This was the Patriot Hour. Thanks for being here. If you're new, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring the bell. Returning Patriots, you know what to do. Love all the Patriots. Love all the newcomers. Love all the returning veterans of the channel. So you guys have a great Sunday evening, and we'll see you back here. I'm going to go for a bike ride with my daughter and let the dog out. Stuff like that. All right, you guys. Good night.